we're going to go over how to create an assembly within Fusion 360. And so we're going to be using our construction block files that we designed to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here to my construction blocks, the 30, 30, 30 cube, and I'm going to insert, right click on it, and then I'm going to say I want to insert into my current design. It tells me that I can't do that because the design hasn't been saved yet, so I'll go ahead and click OK, and I'll come up here to this and I will name this construction block assembly, and I'll go ahead and click save. And then once I've done that, I'll right click on the part again and I'll say insert into current design. The block will come in and I'll simply click OK here. I'm going to put two instances of that into this design. So it looks like there's one, but if I move it here, I can see that there's two. Next, I'm going to put a 30, 60, 30 rectangle into it. So I'll right click on that one, insert into design, click OK. And then the last one I'm going to insert is the 60, 30, 30 arch. And so I'll say insert into current design. I'm going to move this one a little bit closer to the other blocks so they're closer together. And we're going to work on assembling these. And so within Fusion, we assemble things with joints. And so the joint tool is right here. So I'll go ahead and click on that. There are different types of joints that you can utilize. For our construction blocks, we're going to be using what's called a rigid joint. So I'll go ahead and click and make sure I have rigid selected. The first thing I'm going to do is come over here to this block, and if I hover over the top of it, I get all of these points that I can select. From the top face, I'm going to select the center of the object, and then I'm going to come over here to the other red block and select the center of that one. Notice it flips the block over and it creates that rigid joint. If I didn't want it to be rigid, if I wanted it to be a revolute, I could select that and then the block would spin. The slider joint would allow the block to move in the direction that I want. And you can experiment if you would like with some of the other joint types. But like I said, for this project, we're going to be primarily using the rigid joint. So I'll select rigid. It means that they're hooked together, they're rigid, they won't move, and then I can go ahead and select OK. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this arch block on my rigid joint up here at the top. To do that, I'm going to pan around using my view cube, and I'm going to want to select the bottom surface of this part. And so I'm going to go ahead and click joint, and then I'm going to select the middle of that block. Actually, I'm going to select the edge of the block. And so it's hard for me to get it, so I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more and get the exact part that I want. That's going to be this inside surface right here. I'm going to select that middle one, and I want the blue line pointing down. And so what that's doing within the software is it's saying that I want that blue line. I'm going to come over here to these two blocks and this blue line to line up. And so if I have it this way and I click, notice how it's going to put the block in the middle. If that happens to you, you can go ahead and type in an angle dimension and it will angle it around. The problem is we don't have the correct joint selected. So let's say I go ahead and click OK. The joint that I have here is not correct. I can come over to my joint tool and I can see which joint it is, and I can right click on it and delete it. Then I can move the block away again. So what I'm going to want to do is make sure I select the right portion to get the outcome that we want for this. So I'll go ahead and click join again. This time I'm going to make sure I select the inside portion of this, and I want the blue line pointing out. Then on my block up here, I want the blue line pointing up. So what's happening is those blue lines are going to touch each other. So I can go ahead and click to do that. It says my degree is at 180, so I'm going to make it 0. And it's going to flip the block over. Yours might not be exactly like that, which is okay. Just make sure you get it in the correct orientation that we have here. Then I can go ahead and click OK. And now these blocks are hooked together. The last one that I'm going to do is select a rigid joint and place it to the other side of this. So again, I'll select my joint tool. I'm going to come in here on my block, make sure I have the correct orientation set, and so there it is. I'm going to come over to my arch, the inside edge of the arch, make sure the correct orientation is selected, and go ahead and click to place those together and click OK. So now all of these components have been locked together, and we've created an assembly for them.